Well, I have been absent for a couple weeks, and that's because it is springtime and getting the garden in, which is kind of a new thing, like a fairly sizable organic garden kind of situation, has been extremely labor intensive. I'll leave it at that. So, um, between that and actually a lot of stuff related to coding, in other words, programming, has been sort of occupying my attention. Anyway, what is this that we're looking at? You know what? Last week when I was kind of poking at some animation stuff, I decided to try a new paradigm. I'm loading up Blender, by the way. Blender 2.79. I think I used 2.79. I might have used 2.8. I'll find out here real quick. But I wanted to try a new paradigm because in anime, what we tend to do is focus on the picture. So the idea is to get a pose or a drawing of a picture, and they tend to be highly embellished with a lot of colors and gradients and things like that. And then for animation, unless it's actually an action scene, there's a lot of dialogue, obviously. And so the idea is kind of to keep the animation burden to a minimum in favor of higher quality drawings. Now, as an animator viscerally, that's not where I come from. That's not the paradigm that sort of floats my boat as far as animation goes. What floats my boat is full animation. And so I started playing around with this concept, this scene here, where from the other cartoon I'm working on, not the anime. And I thought, you know what, I'm going to do this as full animation, but I'm going to do it at 8 frames a second. So that tends to keep the budget under control, but essentially I set Blender to run at 30 frames a second, and this actually has nothing to do with the cartoon. This is just, I'm thinking, okay, what if the water went down and old man Noah came out of the ark? What might he do? And so I was playing around with Blender for that, and I was kind of impressed how, Noah's letting a bird go, which makes absolutely no sense since he actually let the bird go before they got out of the ark. But anyway, this is just an experiment. This is like killing time, and I did this on the laptop. I didn't even do it on the screen tablet. I did it with the old-fashioned Wacom tablet. I thought, there's something about this. Don't know quite what it is, but there's something about it. This working at 8 frames a second, but more in terms of full animation, more in terms of visual storytelling and action and comedy, focusing more on that, really kind of got my dander up, you might say. I'm like, this is fun. I'm actually having more fun than I've been having in a while. So this little sequence here, the first part right here that you see was done in Krita, and then I just imported the image sequence. So the basic story is that the main character Mel, short for Melchizedek, so this story takes place after the time of the Great Flood, but before any of the religions of the world took hold, which I kind of like that. So there was no Judaism, there was no Islam, there was no Bible, there was no nothing. There was just people in the world. And whether that's historically true or not, you can go ahead and argue with your friends. It's just a cartoon, So I thought it'd be fun to place the show in that setting, and the basic gist of the show is really simple. It's kind of like Hercules: The Legendary Journeys. It's kind of like the old Incredible Hulk show. It's kind of like Touched by an Angel or Highway to Heaven. It's kind of like, frankly, Stargate SG-1 to a degree, because the idea is that you've got this little team of characters that we set them up, their relationship and their team dynamic in the first episode, and then from then on they just kind of go from place to place and village to village and solve people's problems. That's kind of the concept of the show. A very time-tested concept. So anyway, the show is probably, I don't know, the beats of the show are all written, but the actual script isn't written. But what I did was I said, okay, let's take some of the stuff that is written and let's just take the first couple lines and go animate that. Just go. Just animate it, full animation. So what happened is Mel made some mistakes and kind of got in trouble, and he got sent to go do some menial labor. So he's got to do the laundry, and when he's doing the laundry, he also has to attend to his studies because he's got a test coming up. And while he's trying to take care of all of the above, he is being harassed by this monkey character. Okay, so anyway, this is kind of fun, and I've got as you can see right here, I've got OpenTunes set to actually play back at 8 frames a second, so I can just map the whole thing out at 8 frames a second and see how it goes. So let's just look at what we have. So it's kind of a repeated action of he's basically throwing the laundry in the river, and they have a mechanism for dealing with that. Turns the page. This is what he sees in the book, and he says, how does this even make sense? And then boom, the monkey. I just animated this a few minutes ago. It's still fresh, so that's probably why I think it's funny. But yeah, he's like, what the heck? And then the monkey comes leaping into the scene, stands on his book, looks straight at him, and then does it like a and then runs away. And that's all there is to it. And Mel is left going, what the heck just happened here? Well, the problem is that the monkey put a bunch of footprints all over his book, and ultimately what's going to happen is that Mel, who is being his caretaker, is actually like a monk. It's like a little I guess you call them just kind of a isolated religious group, you might say. They're just kind of hermits, and he's being raised by these people, and there's a whole backstory behind why he's being raised by these people. But so the main character there, named Asher, is like the head monk caretaker guy who kind of tells Mel what to do. And you know, Mel, he's a kid. He's 14, 15 years old. And so then what's going to happen is the monkey is going to spill some ink and get ink all over Asher's most important robe, which Mel then stuffs in a hole. He's like, he's not going to miss this. Who cares? You know, we'll just hide it. And then Asher comes along and it's like, by the way, did you wash my important ceremonial robe? And Mel's going to be like, which one was that? And it turns out, of course, it's the one that Mel just stuffed in a hole. And so it's kind of like problem piles on top of problem, and all of which is really all about setting up this character and the fact that he's a teenage kid who's kind of not really comfortable in his own skin, trying to figure out who he is, kind of thing. So anyway, well, you want to see the animation of Mel so far? All right, I'm showing Val the animation. So he's doing the laundry, and then he goes and deals with his math book, and he's like, how does this even make any sense? And then the monkey comes in, runs across the book, stares at him, chirps, and then runs away. So that's actually all in this shot. So here we go. Doing laundry. Well, better get to the books. How does it even make sense? That's it. She's giggling. That's the desired result. If you can watch it at 8 frames a second, just the pure visceral acting of the show, of the story, and it makes you giggle, you put a thumbs up. That means that it's kind of sort of working. Now, there are lots of other questions you can ask. Is the animation ultimately rendered well? Is it got a good soundtrack? Is the actual underlying story that you're trying to illustrate written well? There's a lot of things you can do to screw something up. But it is fun to take a little, 10 to 30 second snippet and be able to just know that, you know what, the storytelling is entertaining. That's a good thing. That's a very good thing. So There is another thing about this show that I think I'm going to handle a little differently than the anime. Whoops. You will notice the ink is a little different. You'll notice the ink has a little bit more of a brush stroke kind of feeling to it. I don't know if I'm gonna stick with this, but I do like the aesthetic of it. I don't know if it's quite right, but maybe. So we'll see. Anyway, how long are we into this? 10 minutes. Okay, so let's go ahead and deal with some animation, and that would be this. Let's deal with Monkey. So Monkey at, again, 8 frames a second, he goes boom, 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 boom. Okay, so let's get to there. So the important thing to me is that Monkey's action should look frenetic. So therefore, I think that you want his hands way out like this, and then way down like this, maybe with feet out like this, hands way out again like this, and this is all very, very, as I say, very frenetic, very action oriented. Obviously, we've got to have a tail, so the feet are wrapping around here, so then the tail is up like this. That's good. Out here, he's leaping, so you wouldn't see much of the tail at all, actually, right there. All right, and I'm feeling kind of the tail wanting to be like this. So Monkey stops here, and you can just see him squatting on the book. And probably ultimately we'll add a couple keys to get the tail from here to in a more relaxed position like this. That's fine. We can just kind of catch that later. And then the whole idea is the deadpan. It's the idea that Monkey just stares at him like, and then he goes, and then off he goes, you know. So that's kind of where the entertainment value comes from. So all we need to do is get the deadpan expression, the exaggerated expression of with some nice squash and stretch, and then back to deadpan that's more of a glare kind of situation. And then he just disappears. So now all I did here was draw the circles. So the thing about Monkey is Monkey's basic design, it's interesting design because Monkey works from any angle using the same formula. And the formula is you draw a circle and then you draw a football. I think actually here I'll draw the football down like this. So you can actually draw a monkey from any angle, and the pointed corner of the football actually goes right to the center of the circle. Okay. So what's happening here, of course, is let's put his tail down like this, and he's leaping off again. So he would actually have one foot squatted right here, and the other one would be kind of mushed underneath. And we're going to go ahead and make it very, as I say, frenetic. So I'm going to put the bottom of his feet there with his tail falling behind, and then his hands are down here, kind of curled under, because, you know, he's running on his hands kind of thing. So here we would go, I think what we'll do is we'll squunch it up like this. Yes. So then the feet are coming up like this, and we'll fudge a little bit on the positioning of the hands there. We could always, you know, if you really want to be strict about it from the standpoint of sort of a so-called walk cycle, you probably want to put this picture there. All right, and then let's go back to our brush. Hello. Let's see here. Yeah, so actually the feet would replant here, and the arch would reverse, right? Replant there, And the idea, of course, is that monkey is going to zip right on out of the screen. So now what I'm doing is I'm going in and putting in the indication of monkey's ears. And in that case right there, actually a little bit of a hint of his eyeball as well. Here the ears would be back behind. You wouldn't see his eye. Okay. So then this basic sequence, let's see how it looks. Okay. I probably should change my preview range just so we just deal with monkey and only monkey, and I'm going to save that so I can just kind of stay there for the moment. Okay. Interesting how that loops, huh? So the thing that's missing is we really need one more shot, I would say. We need to see monkey just exiting out of the frame. I think I do. Yeah, I think that works. Okay, and there's one mistake, by the way. Mel's. Oh, I see. I'm sorry. There isn't a mistake. I was seeing it loop, and so I thought his arm was in the wrong position. I didn't realize it had gone back to the beginning. Okay, so like I said, this is what is kind of proving to be fun right now. Is really it's all about the storytelling, and it's like, you know, if you can get that right, you're gonna have to mess up either the drawings or the characterization or whatever pretty badly in order for it not to work. Because usually if it works at this stage just on the basis of the timing and everything, it's probably going to work. You know, it's going to be a good shot. So 172, I'm going to go ahead and go back to the beginning. Look at it one more time, and then we'll spend a little time just tightening up some of the keys. Yeah, okay. I like that. Like the characterization. Feels pretty good. It's just funny because, you know, in my mind, I kind of, for a moment there, I'm looking at Mel and I forget that monkey's gonna show up, right? Because I only just drew this a few minutes ago before I started doing the video, so it's always fun when you get a little surprise. Okay, cool. I love it. I love the deadpan character of it. Okay, so now there's a couple little issues. One would be, this is actually kind of a bit of a background that I think needs to be, the size of this needs to be raised up, the basket, and then the book, so we'll keep that, and then let's take the book that's in the background and kind of put it more like down here. Alright, so let's just double check that that works out in terms of spacing. I think this is cool. Yeah, I think that works. What time is it? Almost 11 o'clock. Eastern Standard Time. Okay, so we'll stop right there, and now what we're going to do is, why don't we go ahead and tighten up the raster level, and we'll just do that one arm at a time. Okay, so we got that. Looks good. Looks like that's a duplicate drawing. That looks okay, except not his head so much, so let's go ahead and get the... Okay, so I do notice that with the raster level that the tablet screen appears to be a little bit sluggish right now. That hasn't happened in a while. It's probably because I'm shooting the video, but let's find out. I think it'd be good to just try opening or reopening OpenTunes just to see if there's a bit of a performance improvement after a reopen. What am I hearing? I think I'm hearing microwave popcorn flying into action. Okay, so boom. Okay, and I believe right about here is where we were fiddling. So yeah, actually, okay, quite a lot better performance. So it turns out that maybe OpenTunes has some issues, and maybe it has nothing to do with the fact that I'm running OBS in the background. Okay, now this does all happen pretty quick. But, by the way, you notice here with the eraser, one thing I've been noticing lately is erasers seem to be more useful for me when I do them as a lasso. So, fortunately, you can do that pretty easily in OpenTunes. And also the selective feature of the eraser. This, where is it? Actually, it's not in a raster level, but in a tunes raster level, if you hit the eraser, you got this little box called selective. And I find myself using that a lot lately, where when you go to erase, you only want to erase the actual color palette entry that you're working with at the moment. So that's kind of useful. B key. Alright. Got this little. Let's see here. I'll look at this for a minute. Okay, here he has a collar. Okay, so that's kind of important. I'm a little bit famous for being inconsistent with my costuming, so yeah, that's actually going to be a problem, because here he doesn't have a vest, he's got a collar. Now, I tell you the truth, I actually think it's important that he not have a vest. And the reason is, there's some stuff about this show and this character that I think potentially could harken back to Aladdin. And I do not want to harken back to Aladdin. I do not want to even begin to suggest any sort of conceptual borrowing from Disney. No, no, no. I don't think that would be well advised. So I actually have to modify this whole sequence to get rid of the vest concept and fix it per what I did in later stuff. That the other stuff that where it starts the color, that was all done in OpenTunes in the first place. So yeah, he's got this collar like so, and it basically opens down like that. And then there's like probably some little leather straps that are used to sort of hold it all together. That's what I'm thinking anyway. Okay, so now let's jump back and forth. This is where, again, working at 8 frames a second doing full animation, I've been having fun doing this, just bouncing back and forth. And I just want to get this one little line right here. I just want to get that thing to move correctly, be the right size, not change size and shape as we go. And I tend to favor that approach much more than, say, working with onion skins. I do use onion skins, but not that much. Especially if I'm taking something that I'm not going to draw repeatedly and I'm just moving it around, then I'll often use onion skins just so I can see what the last position was. And then I tend to guess, as far as, you know, mapping out action that happens kind of at the right pace or whatever. I tend to guess pretty well when I use onion skins. But yeah, the biggest change here has definitely been just doing work at 8 frames a second. And the cool thing is you can always, if you got it running at 8 frames a second, then when you're done, put the whole thing on 3s, you know, and run it at 24 frames a second. And you can always put in tweens and speed some of it up to be on 2s or even 1s if you have to, but the basic mapping of action, I seem to do, frankly, I seem to do a better job if I'm working at 8 frames a second. Got no idea why. I mean, it's kind of mathematically warped because it would make more sense to be blocking things in at probably 6 frames a second, because then at least it breaks down into tweens mathematically better because you multiply it by 4, which means you can always just split them in half. With on 3s or 8 frames a second, you don't really have the ability to. I hope what I'm saying makes sense. So if I have a key and then I have 2 more frames, there's no way to put one key that's just in between them. You have to have it next to either the prior key or the later key. There is no in between that's evenly spaced. So, okay, yeah, see, look at that. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to address that in the most commonsensical way. Actually, no, I'm not. Since it repeats, I'm going to go into shot 4 and just make a copy. So I'm going to go like this. I'm going to go boom. Oh, come on, OpenTunes. All right, let me zoom out so I can do this properly. Okay, I'm going to grab all this and delete it. And I'm going to go here, grab all this. Oh, come on, you silly, silly goose. There we go. It's still screwing up. That's weird. That's better. Okay, Control C, Control V. That way I've just got a copy of the shot of the drawing. Okay. So now let's get back to work. B key, and what are we seeing here? I'm seeing a, I tell you, I think I need to like reconnoiter some of my OpenTunes hotkeys. I don't like the fact that the E key and the B key are so far apart. I mean, I can kind of position my fingers on them, but the problem is most of the time I'm on the comma and the period key. I'm usually toggling between frames, so I don't want to have to. With Krita, I just hit the slash key that's right next to the period, and I can toggle between my pencil and my eraser. So I don't actually go into erase mode. I just jump between 2 brushes, and one of them happens to be an eraser. OpenTunes, the transition and the ability to just work really fast is a little bit hampered right now. So I think I need to do again some little bit of hotkey adjustments. And a big reason for that is after like a year of really favoring Krita, I'm kind of moving back towards OpenTunes for the simple reason that it's just a more complete solution. I mean, it's not that I'm abandoning Krita. I'm saying that OpenTunes gives me the ability to do in one place what I could do with, say, Krita and Blender together. And when I do it in Blender and Krita together, it tends to be quite clunky. The last thing that kind of made it, that kind of wrecked it actually, was that I noticed the image sequences going from one to the other, and into OpenTunes actually. Their alpha channels weren't being interpreted properly. I don't remember exactly what the issue was, but it was like, I'm just not into being stopped in my tracks. I'm just trying to really, as I kind of alluded to earlier, get this visceral thing going where I'm moving, I just want to go. I don't want to all of a sudden have to be stopped because the software is acting stupid and I need to go export this and convert that. There's a place for that, no doubt about it. But I'd like to bring that to a minimum so that I can focus on what I think is emerging as my real true core skill, which is storytelling. It's the animation. It's the making the guys move and having it make you smile. I think that's really where my talent lies. Much more so than well, okay, it's the part I like the best. It's the fun part. I don't like ink and paint. I generally find it to be very tedious. And if I created a property that caught some traction, where we had some budget to underwrite the production, the first thing I would do is farm out all the ink and paint. I just would. I'd do the character design, I'd write the script, I'd probably do the score, probably do a lot of the voices. But the thing I probably would not do is ink and paint. Because, you know, if you got good color keys so that you can't, you know, go off the rails as far as the colors themselves and whatnot, then ink and paint is, to me, it's just grunt work. It's just grunt work. Now, if you're somebody out there who's going, no, ink and paint is very creative, it's very artistic, you're right, it is, and it certainly can be. It's just not my favorite cup of tea. It's not what makes me happy in the process. What I enjoy in the process is just telling the story. What I'm doing right now. Moving fast and seeing things like this where it's like, I can tell that's going to work, you know, this feels good. Okay, so right here I'm going to map this down to here. Yeah. So this, when you see me going like this quickly, you know I'm having a good time. You know I'm having a good time. Okay. So, and we are going to have to get, I mean, obviously this is a very sketchy animation so far. Very sketchy animation. Boom, boom. Ah, got that in the wrong place. There we go. Kind of feeling his forearm being right there, and his shoulder being right there. Most of the rest of it's going to be consumed by the hand, and it's clear enough that I'm not going to bother delineating and clarifying that at this exact moment. Now there we've got another duplicate. So let's go to frame 8. Boom. And again, I would normally just delete these. You know, I would delete 8 and just drag it down, but the problem is I've got it repeating 3 times, and I mean, maybe I should and just do it one time, right? Okay. Ooh, okay. Silly me. Okay, that's fine. Oh, okay. Alright. I relent. I'm going to do the right thing. Except, we got that little key situation there. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to insert a row. Just move this guy over. So that means that I'm just going to go through this one time. Yep, and see where the dupes are. I think this gets duplicated twice. It does. Okay. So now, this is a little clunky, but at least you can do it. It's a clunky thing to have to do, but at least you can do it. So, I actually want to move this over, stretch that down, pull that back. Okay, and I think this got moved down. So my suspicion, wait a second, there's something that didn't get duped. Yeah, this one, okay, that's right. Something went haywire. I know, guys, you're looking at this and you're going, yeah, Dave, no kidding. No kidding, it went haywire. Okay, here's what I need to do. Move this over, drag that down, and move it back. So I should have inserted 2 columns so I didn't have this one getting bumped around like crazy. Alright, and then that's good, and that's not good. So this needs to be like that. Alright, and so now we go like this, Control C, V, V. Okay, there it is. So now everything's working as advertised, except OpenTunes is playing back at 24 frames a second. Ah, and that's because once I reopened it, it defaulted back to 24. 24 if you're German. 24 is 24 in English. We love English. It's a very good language. But we like the German as well. And 24 means 24. Or 24, except we say 24. But you knew that. Okay, here we go. Good, 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 good. And now I better attend to my... Oh my gosh. Boy, that's ugly. How does this even make sense? That's working. But is it working? Is it working pretty good? Is it working pretty good? Yeah. Yeah, I guess is what I meant to say. Okay, so here I'm thinking we need to make sure we delineate his garment. Okay, and here we have a problema. Ist problema. Ist ein große. Actually, I think that is the word. Große. Große, if I remember correctly, means something along the lines of big. Große, and then whatever the word is for problem. Yeah, I learned a little bit of German about 20 years ago. Yeah, so I know it's a little silly. He's actually throwing the wander in the river, and I actually have not even figured out logistically. Well, how does that even make sense? I'm thinking there's some sort of water wheel that so he throws them in the river, and then we'll have a wide shot that shows the items actually being picked up by this water wheel or something like that. So they sort of get hooked and caught up, and I don't know, sort of one of these. Who was the guy that used to do these cartoons that showed these really complex machines? Was it? I'm wanting to say Jules Pfeiffer, and I know that's wrong. I can't remember the guy's. Maybe it was Pfeiffer, but I don't think it was. I can't remember what the. They named these kind of crazy machines after him. Anyway, if you know, post it in the comments. There's a boom. Look at that. Drawing 12 is really needs to be a duplicate of drawing 11 anyway. So here's 12, and we'll go erase. Oh, gone. Now we'll take 11, copy it. Obviously, we could just use 11 there instead of 12. Duh. But anyway, okay, I'm gonna keep moving forward. What time is it? Oh man, 38 minutes. Okay, that movement is pretty brisk, and I don't like what I did in terms of his arm dimensions. He looks like he's got the arm of a Lilliputian munchkin, and we can't have that. So Lilliputian munchkins are small, and Mel isn't the biggest guy on, in town, but he's certainly not that small. So boom, and that's maybe not amazing, but okay. Let's see if we can just kind of get the okay, yeah, so because so you'd actually see a little bit of an indication there of his. Yeah, I think that works. Okay, cool. Okay, so this characterization looks quite good. This has done a good job of capturing Mel, his persona, his characterization. All right. So obviously we need to get this. Boom. And in this shot, his big old fingers are like right in the way of his face, so hence he's sufficiently obscured that it doesn't matter if we don't see him. And then it switches to this, and I'm thinking right here we do want to have some sort of indication of fingernails. Okay, what I'm looking at right now is just a little bit about the characterization. I'm going to go ahead and just delete that. It's quite helpful actually to just erase stuff, because what happens is in your mind you see the character as he should be or as he is. So it's much better to just redraw him. Much better to redraw than to try to fix something, especially if the proportions are wrong or whatever. Not guaranteeing I'm going to get it right this time, but yeah, in fact, I want to move his mouth down too. He looks kind of like Sokka, I guess, if the truth be known. Sokka from Avatar: The Last Airbender. A little bit. It's actually one of the reasons why I didn't give him a hair. He initially had like a ponytail thing going on and his hair pulled back. And I'm like, wait a second. No. This guy looks too much like Sokka. So that's why I changed the hairdo. Okay, so okay, so why do we even have shot 8? I'm going to try to nail this if I can. Okay. Ears need to be pulled back. And there's something wrong with his hair. Yeah. Actually, this needs to be pulled forward. There we go. Boom. Okay. Not too bad. And I'm going to actually completely take this head out. So the idea is that he's going here. I'm going to go ahead and push this forward. Yep, that's what I'm going to do. Okay, he turns the page. I want to really look at the acting here as regards his shoulder, because his shoulder's got to come forward here, and this just needs to be deleted. Ugh. Because the reason I say ick is because the fact that that line is there is causing it's making it hard for me to see him, you know, in my imagination. It's distracting me. That's why I'm much favoring redraws instead of fixes more than I used to. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and just draw kind of this. Oh, it's not far enough. I want to tilt it a little more forward and maybe shrink it just a bit. Okay. Yeah, so we're going to cut to the close-up. There we go. Yeah, there. Nice shift in the weight. Now, the only issue there would be this looks, you know, he's a little skinnier than I drew him there, so. Okay, and this shoulder should actually fall a little bit more. Sorry, wrong tool. Boom, boom. The tween would be something like this. Okay. So now you got this, boom, this distance. Okay. Yep. Don't want to put the ears too low. I want to make this characterization consistent with this. Okay, and this hairline's just a little bit too low. So we'll fix that. So it's going to be... Now what I'm looking at is I'm looking at the outer contour of the hair. I want to get that correct. Because if I get that correct, I know that the details inside of that contour will work. So really what you got is a... Basically you've got that. Alright, now we got boom. So let's go like that. See, I used to put the you know, always draw circles or some kind of guidelines wherever the eyes were, and I'm actually getting away from that. I'm getting more into just focusing on the contours, getting the contours right. And this is working because if you, I mean, there's no question that he is retaining his characterization from frame to frame, and that's very good news because it's frankly probably the thing about animation that I've sucked the most at for the last year, is not having my characters change what they look like between shots. Now this is not perfect, I can see that. Although he's more of a straight horseshoe shape here, and so it's really this drawing that's a little off. Yeah. Yeah, that works better. And then this one a little bit broader on the chin. And I think with that I'm going to go ahead and take a break, and we'll come back to it in the next video. As you guys know, there will